I know, it can be satisfying to see vigilante justice being meted out because it's like immediate consequences, right? But at the same time, we can't have double standards when it comes to violence. If we're against violence, we have to be against violence against women and violence against men. And an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, we'd all be blind and toothless. Welcome, GE lovers. Welcome back to the channel. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate if you would do so and stick around with this journey and support me as I continue to share stories from the Jamaican perspective, the Jamaican diaspora, and also what's happening within the country. And so for this particular article in the Gleaner, I wanted to revisit the subject in light of a video that I did around laws against domestic violence in Jamaica and whether or not they are punitive enough. And my perspective then was that it wasn't. Like, people really need to take these things more seriously. And so when I came up on this particular article, I cringed a little bit because I was like, oh, there's nothing about this story that is good. So I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'm very confused about it because I also made another video about vigilante justice, right? And where, you know, the people can't really necessarily take certain things into their own hands. But essentially, this female pastor here is saying she beat this guy from her congregation because he repeatedly abused his wife. So take that in for a little bit. So here's this guy. He is a member of her church. He beat his wife, and he came to church one day, and apparently he brought the abuse into worship. And so at that point she stepped in, and basically she and a bunch of women on the choir beat the crap out of this dude. And I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is going on in this church? Now, let's just read through the facts of the case and then I'll give you my opinion and commentary. So basically it says here, there are times when talk is not enough and strong, maybe even controversial actions have to be taken. No one knows this better than Reverend Annette Brown, who admitted that she punched a male member of her church in the face several times because he was repeatedly abusing his wife, right? And she admitted that she's not glorifying her actions, right? She would never condone women she came into contact with staying in abusive relationships. She stated to the gathering, I begin with a controversial story. One Sunday morning, I punched a man in his face 4 times because he was abusing his spouse. And even after much counseling and talking to, he decided to escalate it. He thought that by coming into worship and abusing her, he was going to get away with it. And I was just fed up. It didn't stop there. After punching him, all the women on the choir and all the women in the church came down and gave him a good spanking. I say this because one of the challenges we face as a church is that the language we use and even the Holy Scripture we use tends to support the abuse of women. And that's a subject that we could really delve deeply into. I am glad that this pastor is a very honest woman. She's really looking at the Scripture and being very critical and objective with regards to some of the terminology that is in there, right? She says here, one of the things in terms of strengthening the institution as a church is to look at the language you use. We talk about women submitting to their husbands and you are not to divorce and the woman must obey, Brown said. And then she also goes on to say that, actually I think this is Paula Llewellyn, who is the director of public prosecutions. She's saying that from a legal perspective, folks are so bound by the law, there has to be evidence in order for victims of domestic violence to be supported. And she says, I agree that on occasion, sometimes the police might not appear to be as responsive as they should be, which is my perspective. I agree that even the prosecutorial authority may not appear to be as sympathetic as perhaps persons on social media and traditional media can appear to be, but it's because we are bound by the law. And this is where I'm like, the law needs to really sort of update itself to be relevant to today's domestic violence situations that exist. But that's a story for another day. What I really wanted to talk about here is the action that this lady took, right? The pastor who beat this man for abusing his wife. No, I think what makes the situation probably not as bad, even though it's still kind of controversial, is the fact that they were intercepting him in the act of abusing his wife, right? It's not like she was like, okay, the wife came and told her and then she saw him and he was just out there in his normal life and she attacked him and beat him up. She was literally there witnessing the domestic abuse, right? So therefore she had no choice but to intervene, right? Granted, could she have should she have gone that far? Should she and all the women in the church have ganged up on this dude and beat him up? Maybe not. Maybe they could have, removed the lady being abused from the situation and called in the police to address the situation according to the law, right, where he would be locked up and that kind of thing. But that's the thing, because nobody has trust in the law to take these things to the extent that they need to be. People sometimes feel like they need to take things into their own hands, right? And can you imagine that poor woman, after she went home, the kind of abuse that she experienced from this man after he was beaten up and embarrassed like that in a public forum? I mean, that's the thing. There's so many things that are wrong with the situation. It's hard to really applaud anyone here for having taken the right action, but I think it points to the complexity of the issue. Like, you can't meet violence with violence and expect it to result in peace. So I totally get that point. It's one of those things where, I'm not even sure what side of the fence I'm really on here. I think, this situation is very sticky. And I'm glad that this pastor was able to admit that, yeah, it's controversial. She did what she had to do. She's not happy about it. She's somebody who's trying to get these things to change. But she admits that domestic violence is much larger than just a man beating his woman. It's a patriarchal society which is reinforced by religion. The position of women in their relationships in society is consistently stated to be that of subservience, and we should be dominated by men in whatever situations we're in, whether it's relationships, whether it's at work, whether it's wherever we are. And so those are things that have to change on a broader scale, right? But at the same time, lady, I mean, you do not play. I don't know if I would want to be a member of your congregation. Next thing I do something, you come off the pulpit and beat me up. I'm not going to give her a big pat on the back. I will say I'll give her a pat on the back for being somebody who, attack situations as they happen. So guys, I don't know what's going on here. Let us know what you think, man, in the comments below. This lady does not play. So anyway, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I hope you stick around and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And until next time, J lovers, take care of yourselves, my friends. Hang up the phone.